It's not the view I want. There we go. What's up, guys? Happy Friday. Welcome back to another Dividend Happy Hour. I hope everyone had a fantastic week. Hope things are going good for you guys out there. We've got a fun stream tonight. They're always fun. Always look forward to these. But I want to just let you guys know we are not going to be going the full hour tonight. I'll probably end up wrapping the stream up in about 30 minutes or so. I have a hot date tonight with a very spicy senorita that I like to call my wife. So, so we're only going to go for about 30 minutes tonight, maybe 35 minutes. You guys know how it goes. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, let you guys know the stream's not going to go its full length tonight, but we will make the most of the time that we have. I'm so happy to be back with you guys for another live stream. Once again, I hope everyone had a great week. Hope things are going well for you guys in the portfolio. Why don't we kick this bad boy off the best way we know how? Grab whatever it is you're sipping on, guys. Let me crack this bad boy open here. Ooh, there we go. Cheers, guys. Here's to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Dividend Happy Hour and coming to hang out with me tonight on the live stream. I appreciate all your support on the channel. And I appreciate you guys keep continuing to come back. I don't know why you keep tuning into my gibberish, but I'm not going to question it too much. But also, here's the dividends. Here's the pursuit of that sweet, sweet cash flow, because really, that's why we're all here to talk about dividends. But anyway, guys, cheers. Here's to you. Oh, that's good. Oh, man. So delicious. Guys, let me know a few things here in the chat. Number one, I want to know, what did you buy this week? Which stocks did you pick up? What did you add to your portfolio? There's some good deals and discounts out there right now. So curious to know what you guys are adding to your portfolio. Personally speaking, I just dollar cost average a bit more into Zoetis, picked up some SCHD. I think I'm at about 380 shares of SCHD now. So we are well on track to hit those 450 shares by the end of the year. So let me know that, number one. Number two, what are you sipping on tonight? What did you bring to drink to the Dividend Happy Hour? I got my Coke Zero over here, but what are you guys sipping on? Number three, I want to know if anything cool happened in your guys' portfolio this week, whether in your portfolio or outside of the portfolio. Maybe you got some cool life stuff going on that you want to share. Let me know that in the chat as well. And number four, I want to know if we have any first timers here in the live stream. If this is your first time tuning into the Dividend Happy Hour live, let me know that in the chat. I want to give you a quick shout out. And in case this is your first time tuning in, typically we do this live stream every Friday night, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And usually we'll go for the full hour. Usually it ends up being a bit over an hour, but like I said, we're going to cut it a little bit short. We're only going to go for about 30, 35 minutes or so tonight. But let me go through the chat real quick, see who all we got in the building here. It looks like there's 90 of us in the live stream, my guys. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Let's see. Let me go all the way to the top here. So the first comment here that I see is from my man, Matt. What's up, Matt? I see Caesar. Lucas is here. Chris. Drift is here. What's up, Drift? Aussie Dividend is here. What is going on? Got my glass of water ready to go. Fast Eddie says, I need a Bloody Mary. You know what? That is one cocktail I really have a hard time with. Those do not taste good to me at all. Excuse me. And I like spicy stuff too. I know a lot of people put Tabasco in them, but I just can't do the Bloody Marys. Anyway, moving on. BDC Addicted is here. What's going on? Boaz is here. Did I already say what's up to Lucas? I think I did. Yeah, I did. Jzev, what's going on? Thoughts on Merck? Is it still a good long-term investment? That's a good question. We'll take a look at Merck. And with that said, too, if you guys have any questions, if there's any stocks you guys want me to look at here on the stream, just drop them in the chat, and we'll try to get through them. So Codex wants to know about OSK or Gilead. Okay. Let's see who else we got here. Pete's here. Maria, what's going on, Maria? Finally made it to a live. Nice. Happy to see you in the stream. Casey's here as well. Hey, I finally made it to the live chat. There you go. Thomas is here. What's up, Thomas? Andres is here. What's happening? Mr. J Ortiz in the building. There we go. Wow, look at this, guys. So Matt said, 430 shares of SCHD and more Zoetis, drinking Dr. Dr. Pepper, now over $3,100 in income. Nice. Nerdy Film Girls here. What's going on? Let's see. Casey bought some SCHD. There you go. Yeah, the first sip is always the best. Exactly. Oh, I'll tell you what, though. The third and fourth sip are all pretty good, too. I'd say that from the top to the bottom of the can, all the sips are pretty consistently good. Let's see here. Vasco's here. Ooh, Boaz drinking some wine. Very fancy tonight. Good stuff. Marin picked up Google, Microsoft, and SCHD. Goodbyes. BDC picked up Blue Owl and BBDC. Oh, okay. Nice. Let's see. What else we got here, guys? Dan with some UNH. Let's see. Ooh, Mr. J picking up or sipping on a little Celsius. Nice. Love me some Celsius. Chris with the usual suspects, of course. Of course. Shane with UNH. Very nice. Gilbert, Soundhound in Nike. Your thoughts, man? I feel like we go through. I feel like we go through Nike in every single live stream. So, I don't know about Soundhound. I don't even think that's a dividend payer. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've actually. Let me see. Oh yeah, I'm sure this is not a dividend payer. Yeah, that's not a dividend payer. I don't have any thoughts on that. Nike, if you want to see the thoughts on Nike, tune into the live stream from last week because we went in depth on Nike in that one. Okay, Josh, first time making it for a full stream. I cannot talk tonight, guys. Something about Fridays. Let's see. Alex started a position in Merck. There you go. Wow, Vasco picked up 42 shares of SPYL, which is the European VU. Nice, good stuff. Drift's first time tuning in. Very cool. Let's see. Let me keep scrolling down, guys, see what else we got. I'm a few minutes behind in the chat. And just for the sake of maximizing the time, we'll get to all the questions and stuff here pretty soon. Let me just see what else we got. Dan wants us to look at Fastenal. Yeah. Novo Nordisk. Yeah, let me save these two. So that gives us 4 good stocks to look at. Oh, Tomas, what's going on, Tomas? Teeps is here. What's happening? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been watching Rollins. I mean, it's still up there for sure. Matthew's first time in the stream. Watch all your videos. I've been building out a portfolio with a yield of 4%. 4%. Wow, that's crazy. Those are killer dividend stats. Holy cow. That's crazy, man. But I'm thinking of going to more 2.5% a yield with 16% growth. I'm 33. I'd be very curious to see like how your portfolio's set up to get those dividend stats because that's very impressive. Good job. I mean, I guess you could get that if you just went all in on SCHD, right? You pretty much you have that right there. So I guess it's totally doable. Okay, let's keep going, guys. Oh, I got a sneeze coming on. Bear with me. Oh, it's going to tease me. Okay, anyway, Josh, with the help of your videos, I quit sports gambling in January and started my dividend portfolio. Nice, man. Good job. Started my positions in VOO and SHD in February, and I've never been happier. So thank you. Oh, man, that's really cool to hear. Good job. Good job. And I'm curious to know, Josh, if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, what made you switch gears? What made you think, like, what was the catalyst or I guess the thought that made you think, I guess, here's what I'm trying to ask. What was the final straw for you with the sports gambling that made you think, I need to stop doing this and I need to get into dividend investing? What prompted that switch there? I'm just curious to know, like, what that thought process was like and how you made that switch. I'm very curious to know. Let's see. Okay, guys. Okay, so let's KFY Corn Fairy. That's quite the name. Yeah, we'll take a look at this one. I've never heard of this company before, so that'll be fun. So we've got a few good questions. Matt, when is the next portfolio review video you'll put out? It'll be sometime later this month. Probably in the next couple of weeks, I'll put out the portfolio review video. Ooh, Korean Cardboard's got a good question too. We'll take a look at that one. So guys, let's get into some of these stocks we have to look at. The first of which is going to be Merck. JZev wants us to look at Merck and wants to know if it's a good long-term investment. So let's jump over here to Snap Stock real quick. Let me do that view right there. So let's go MRK. And let's see what's going on. Yeah, so Merck's seen a pretty crazy drop, right? Hide that right there. Down 40% just in the last year. The valuation stats, are looking pretty good. Very, very high free cash flow yield. And also like the Snap score is pretty solid too, 7.5. This has it as an above average company. And just based on this here, I'm guessing we'll expect to see some very solid growth from top to bottom, aggressively growing revenue, earnings and free cash flow, probably very high margins, probably a net debt to free cash flow that's reasonable, high interest coverage. And we'll see what's going on with the dividend stats, but we'll also, I would guess, expect to see pretty high returns on invested capital and stuff like that. So let's scroll down, guys. Let's see what we can get into here. So first things first in the growth department, yeah, we're seeing some very, very solid growth and very consistent growth too. I mean, there is some choppiness, I suppose, from year to year looking at the free cash flow, but overall, the general trend is up and to the right. And the same is definitely true with the earnings per share. It looks like 2023 was a tough year. But otherwise, the company's done a great job of growing their earnings. Revenue growth has been very consistent as well. Looks like margins are actually increasing. 10 years ago, the gross margin was 62.2%. Now, guys, it's upwards of like 76, approaching 80%. So that's really good to see. Increasing profitability is always a big green flag in my book. And we're kind of seeing that too with the net profit margin and free cash flow margin. But kind of like what we saw up here, it is a bit spotty with the ups and downs every single year. It's going to change the margin of that. But overall, that's looking pretty good. And just like we suspected, guys, I mean, the debt at a 6, the debt score at a 6, excuse me. The net debt to free cash flow is very low. It's only 1.3, which means it's going to take them like a year and some change to pay off all of their net debt if they dedicated all of their free cash flow to doing so. With that, and this may not be accurate. I mean, the interest coverage for 2023 was only 2.6, but with that, I guess that's not much of a surprise. It looks like the earnings took a hit in that year. So not surprising to see the interest coverage low for this year. We don't have the score yet for 2024, which is, I guess, having a negative impact here on the debt. I bet you if this data was loading, that debt score might be up, close to an 8 or a 9. So either way, still looking good. Nothing to be concerned about from what I can tell, at least. Things are looking pretty good in the dividend department. The yield, not only is it 4.1%, but it's considerably higher than the company's 5-year average, which tends to sit around 3%, both over the last 5 and 10 years. So I think that's looking really good, locking a nice high yield. You're getting a pretty solid dividend growth rate to match, right? 7%, about 7% or so on average over the last 5 and 10 years. So very consistent dividend growth as well. And yeah, it's looking good. It looks like the most recent raise was about 8.5% last year. So yeah, I like a lot of what I see here with Merck. I really do. Just based on the financials, it's looking really solid. The returns look really good as well. I mean, very high returns on invested capital. Back in 2024, it was over 20%. Looks like the average is about 12.6, which isn't too shabby. So, I think this is looking, excuse me, guys. I think Merck's looking pretty good. Comparing that to, and I know they're different, but just another stock in the sector, comparing that to something like Zoetis, Zoetis is still going to have the higher snap score by quite a bit. But, it does look like actually in the growth here, it looks like Merck was maybe growing at a at a faster rate. Very similar net debt to free cash flow. Obviously, with Merck, you're getting a much higher starting yield, but the dividend growth rate here with Zoetis is pretty killer. Hard to beat, over 20%. But then with the returns on invested capital, you're getting something considerably higher here as well. But yeah, with Merck, I really think you've got a good looking company there. So, and I don't know, this is just looking at some of the very like surface level numbers. Obviously, that took us, just a few minutes to go through. So definitely don't base your investment thesis on that right there. But at a glance, it looks pretty good. I don't know much about their like the products that they sell or anything like that, so I don't want to spend some time learning more about that before I pull the trigger. But just looking at the numbers real quick, it looks solid. Real quick before we jump on to the next comment, guys, and look at the next stock from Josh here, going back to sports gambling, converting from sports gambling to now dividend investing. Said I was tired of losing money. Oh, there he is. Tired of losing money and being glued to my phone watching the last leg of my parlay lose by 1. Realized I could actually make the passive income I want from dividend investing and not gambling. I like that, man. Well, I think that that was a very responsible move. And I think, oh, here it comes. It's back. Oh, sorry, guys. Comes and goes. I think from a long-term perspective, you'll be glad that you made this switch. And I think too, because I understand sports betting or sports gambling sports betting could be exciting and stuff like that, especially if you're someone who is very into sports, which I'd imagine you'd have to be if you're going to be betting on it. But I do think that if you ever wanted to, there's room for both. But like I said, I think this is a responsible move. And I think if you had to choose between the two, I think you definitely should be prioritizing investing over gambling. But, maybe once you settle into a good, consistent groove with investing, if you ever wanted to, do a little bit of gambling here and there, that's not the end of the world. It's really not. So, but yeah, overall, I think very solid move and good job, man. Keep up the good work. Okay. Let's see. Yep, Peanut's here. Time to swig it. You guys see his paw right there? Hi, buddy. He's been a very good boy. Very good boy today. Let's see. Okay. So this next question here comes from Codex. Thoughts on OSK or Gilead? So let's just go through one of them. We have about 10, 15 minutes before we got to wrap this up tonight. So let's just go through Gilead. And if we jump back over here to Snapstock. Okay, we're actually seeing a pretty similar free cash flow yield to what we saw with Merck, right? I think Merck's was 8.8 or something like that. Interestingly, though, Gilead's share price has gone in the complete opposite direction. Whereas Merck was down 40% in the last year, Gilead's up almost 50%. So let's see. And real quick, just looking at the snap score, interestingly, this is considerably lower than Merck's. Merck's was about 7.5. This is 6.0. Pretty solid, scores, growth, profitability, and debt, 7 out of 10. But it looks like the returns on invested capital and stuff like that's not going to be as high just based on this. But let's get into the weeds and see what see what we can find here. So right off the bat, I got to say this doesn't jump out to me. Revenue, is growing pretty consistently. It looks like there were a couple of years where it really stagnated, and overall it's up and to the right from 2018 to now. Prior to 2018, though, it looks like it's been going down. So I don't know. It's okay. This really is not jumping out to me. If I had to just honestly, based on this right here, I probably would not look any further into it, and I would look elsewhere, just because already just in this live stream, in these 20 minutes, we've established there are other companies, other healthcare companies who are seeing more growth and more consistent growth than something like Gilead. So for me, that would just exclude it right off the bat. With that though, continuing to scroll down, net debt to free cash flow is pretty solid, actually very similar to Merck's. This is 1.6. Looks like the interest coverage is a bit low for 2024. The yield is a bit lower than the 5-year average, and the dividend growth rate's really nothing to write home about. Over the last 5 years, it's really stagnated. So, with this, and I keep comparing it to Merck, but I think it's fair. Comparing this to Merck, not only are you getting a company with not as much financial growth, but by buying today, you're getting a much lower starting yield and a much lower dividend growth rate. So unless I'm missing something just based on these financials here, and also, considerably lower returns on invested capital. So unless I'm missing something here, unless there's something special about Gilead, maybe they've got some new product coming out or something like that, I'm just not sure what the draw would be to this company over some of the others in the healthcare sector. And hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if I'm missing something, guys, or if you guys feel differently. Let me know in the chat real quick. So yeah, roulette's fun. Okay. Let's go to this next one. This one's from Dan. Can you look at Fastenal? I sure can. Fastenal is a great looking company. You guys will like this one. I'm excited to show you this one. I don't know that I feel like we may have looked at it somewhat recently, sometime in the last month. I could be wrong about that, but Fastenal's always looked like a pretty high quality company to me. Now, Snap score is okay, right? It's 7.1. Kind of interesting though. I mean, the growth is not as good as the other companies that we've looked at. The margins look pretty solid. Perfect debt score, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. Low score in the dividends and buybacks. That's the lowest score out of all of them, actually. And then the capital efficiency is a 10 out of 10. So we're going to see some really nice returns on invested capital. Real quick, though, before we scroll down, I will say this does not look promising. Looks to be a pretty expensive company. Very, very low free cash flow yield at 1.9. And this is also about 30% lower than the company's 5-year average. Very high PE ratios and price to free cash flow as well. So I don't know about that. But what I do like here is that and I think this is maybe why the growth score is actually so low. It's because this free cash flow growth rate is only 0.4 over the last 5 years. But we can see what's really causing that was this big spike right here in 2023. Overall, though, I'm looking at this chart. I mean, looking at these visuals, everything is growing very consistently at pretty moderate levels too. Revenue, earnings per share, growing by pretty much exactly the same rate. And then, the free cash flow per share trend is up and to the right as well. So overall, I don't think this growth score is as bad as it seems. I think maybe it deserves to have a higher score. Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry. Something about this Coca-Cola tonight, really getting to me. Yeah, Ryan lives in the gambling capital of the world. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what my response was going to be to that, but I will agree with this. Pat. If you're going to gamble, just make sure you're doing it on a Vici property. Your patronage would be appreciated. I agree. So one thing, guys, one interesting thing I see here is the gross margins look to be declining over the last decade. In 2015, we're about 50%, whereas, nowadays we're about 45%. So they are losing ground in their gross margins, which isn't the end of the world. A 5% decline, I guess, over the last 10 years. Maybe that's, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater just because of that, but it is a trend that you'll want to keep an eye on. Now, on the other hand, it does look like the net profit margin, so the very bottom line, it does look like this has stayed a bit more steady, and in some cases, I mean, maybe even has slightly increased. So I think that looks good, and then it does look like the free cash flow margin has seen a tick upward as well. Going from about a low of about 8% in 2016 to 12.5% in 2024, or even if we go to 2015, 10% to 12%. So at worst, it's stayed steady. Debt score looks really good. Net debt to free cash flow is only 0.24, which means this company's got about 4 times as much free cash flow coming in per year than they have net debt on the balance sheet. So that's looking good. And the interest coverage as a result is going to be incredibly high. So long story short, debt is just not an issue for this company at all. You don't have to worry about Fastenal going bankrupt anytime soon. Now, interestingly, you know, and okay, and looking at this too, it looks like the dividend deserves a higher score here. Okay, because clearly this 5-year growth rate is not 2.74%. Once again, this right here is throwing it off. I think this right here is throwing it off. Maybe they paid some special dividends in this year, and that's throwing off the overall CAGR. But across the last 10 years, this says 12%. Maybe if we go over here to Seeking Alpha, Fastenal, let's see what they have the 5-year growth rate at. So about 12%, pretty spot on to what we have for the 10-year. So, right now you're getting about a 2% yield with a 12% dividend growth rate. I think that's pretty acceptable. Those are your classic dividend growth stats. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker, guys. The dividend does not look to be very well. Well, I shouldn't say that. Before I say that, let me just okay. Here's what I was going to say. It looks like the payout ratio is very stinking high. And I guess it is. Like it's about 78% in 2024. But this is right in line with the 5-year average. And it's not too much higher than the company's 10-year average. So it looks like historically, Fastenal has had a higher payout ratio. Although prior to 2019, it looks like the payout ratio was in a much better spot. Even in the low 60s, upper 50s, that's still way better, than approaching 80%. So yeah, I guess what I was originally going to say holds true. I would keep an eye on this payout ratio. This is a bit high for my liking for this company. And the free cash flow payout ratio is just very consistently high. But maybe that's, I don't know. Again, maybe that's normal for this company. It looks to be right on trend with the 5 and 10-year averages. And these are just pretty much identical. So I don't know. I don't exactly know what to make of that. I think though, I'd rather, and I know they're different companies. I totally know this, but same sector, still in the industrial sector. I'm looking at this and I think I would rather own Rollins. I would rather own Snap-on. I would rather own Caterpillar. And once again, I know totally different companies. There's just a lot of others in the industrial sector I'd probably own before Fastenal, but it's not bad. It's really not bad. And, to their credit, very, very solid returns on invested capital. I'm actually surprised to see them this high. There's not a single year where over the last decade where it was below 20%. So that's pretty incredible. Yeah, very solid returns too, like share price returns here. Look at that. So, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you're still dealing with a pretty high quality company, despite the payout ratio. I guess that's like the big scarlet letter for me is that high payout ratio, but they seem to make it work, right? Let's see. Okay, guys. I don't think we're going to have time to look at all of these. So let's go NVO real quick. We're going to make this we'll go through this one very quick. We'll go through Korn Ferry very quick too. So Novo Nordisk, first and foremost, very high snap score. This is akin to what you'd get from something like Visa or MasterCard. Like near perfect scores across the board, right? So at a glance, this is looking to be a very high quality company. And I mean, what the heck is going on here? A 2.9 for the PE ratio, a 4 for price to free cash flow, a 24% free cash flow yield. Come on, get out of town. Get out of town. Yeah, look at that. So we're just going to glance at these charts, guys. We're going to go through this super quick. This is top pure class right here for me. Very high margins, looking good. Debts, big jump in 2024, but still net debt to free cash flow of 1.25 could be so much worse. Still very high interest coverage. So looking great. Killer dividend growth, 8.5%. with a 2.2% starting yield, looking very solid. And it looks like the most recent raise, if this was true, was like 40%. So I actually don't even know how their dividend growth rate is so is only 8.5%. That's confusing to me. And I bet you if we go over here, it's going to be a lot higher. 20, yeah, so they have it at 22%. And then, no surprise, returns on invested capital just off the chart. So yeah, this looks to be a very high quality company. It's like it's all you look at this and you're almost like, what's the catch here? Like, what am I missing? Why is it down 50% in the last year? Like with financials like this, with everything looking like how it is, why is this stock down so much? And I don't know. I probably should look more into it. But yeah, just at a glance, it's looking really good. And then, guys, this last one right here. Let's see. Matt wants us to look at Korn Ferry. So let's see here. What does this company even do? First and foremost, let's see if we can go to their website. So, okay, staffing and employment. I don't think I've ever heard of this company. Organizational consulting firm. Okay. So that's interesting. Maybe it's kind of like a almost like a Robert Half, like an RHI. Sounds pretty similar to something like that. Okay, but let's go back over here. Starting here with the Snap score. Pretty decent scores, I would say, for the most part. Profitability is very low, a 3, but you know, that could be just standard for a company like this. That wouldn't surprise me. Everything else looks pretty solid. Capital efficiency is, you know, kind of so-so. It's kind of más o menos, as they say. Looking at the chat, you guys talking about yield max. Okay, so there's some good and there's some bad here in the growth, right? So revenue for the most part's grown pretty well. Looks like these last couple of years it's stagnated, but you know, prior to 2020, it was growing at a very consistent clip. 2020, 2021, probably for obvious reasons, it was a bit rough. And then they saw a big jump in 2022. So it's almost like if you remove these 2 years right here, it's just the trend continuing. What's up, Charles? So I think that's looking pretty good. Earnings per share, this is where it gets a bit dicey, right? Same thing like we saw with the revenue, big jump in 2022, but since then it's really coming back down to earth. Still above where it was the pandemic years and the pre-pandemic years, but I don't know. We'll see where the earnings per share goes from here. This is something that I'd want to keep an eye on. And what's the share price done these last few years? Okay, so it's still up 130%, even though the earnings, so let's see, 2022 to 2024. Okay, so yeah, it looks like the share price kind of sort of followed the earnings. And then I will say the free cash flow per share, I think is fine. You know, it's consistently grown, big jump in 2022 once again. But you take this year out, and this looks to be a very consistent growth trend in the free cash flow. So I think that's looking good. What was their growth score here? A 7? Yeah, that makes sense. So, ooh, interesting. This is very interesting. So, is this what happened here? Let me just cross-reference this. Okay, so this is interesting. So Seeking Alpha has their gross margins at like 30% to 20%, whereas this has it at like 90, almost 100%. So there's a big discrepancy there, obviously. The net income margin is a bit more spot on. So I don't know what's going on here. That's so interesting. But I will say the net profit margin here looks to be growing for the most part, ever so slightly. From there, we do see a trend upward, so that's good. Free cash flow margin's been steady. Negative debt. Okay, this is looking good. This is looking very good. So the company has negative net debt on the balance sheet, which essentially means that they have more cash than they do outstanding debt, which is fantastic. That doesn't mean that the company has any debt, or that doesn't mean that the company doesn't have debt. It just means that they have more cash on hand, which is great. And this is what is bringing the debt score down so much, because, oh no, it's up actually. Profitability was down, and profitability was primarily down just because of, the, low profit margin, low free cash flow margin, and I think probably low gross margin here according to that. But no, debt score is looking great. Got all turned around for a sec. So these dividend stats are looking very good. Is that real? Yeah, 32%. Okay. Wow. So, so not a bad starting yield, way above the average, which makes sense because they raised the dividend so much. In 2024, they raised it 66%. Wow. And with that, obviously a pretty big jump in the payout ratio, but it's still not in bad shape. The payout ratio is still 32%. And the free cash flow payout ratio is exactly the same. So even though it did see a big jump, it's still very well covered by both net income and free cash flow. And then with that, the returns on invested capital are pretty consistently low. So interesting. It looks like seems like there's some good, there's some bad. But man, that dividend growth is definitely jumps out at you, doesn't it? Huh. Let me add this one to the watch list. Thank you for sharing that one with me. I've never heard of that company before. Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, guys. I know Corn Fairy is such a strange name, huh? So anyway, guys, it's about 5:40. We're like right on the money here. That was perfect timing. I think this is going to be the perfect spot to wrap it up. And I want to apologize again for ending the stream a bit early tonight. But yeah, gonna have a good night. What can I tell you guys before we sign off? So I'm actually not going to. I usually put out a video either Saturday or Sunday. My next video will not be coming out until Monday morning. First thing Monday morning, it'll be going live. So definitely check that out. It's going to be a fun video. It's going to be a long one. It's almost 20 minutes, but I think you guys are going to enjoy it. And that's about all I got for you guys, though. With that, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another fun happy hour. This one definitely flew by. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in again, all 125 of you. And I hope you all have a great weekend. And I will see you in the next one.